I've been a ministry leader. I've been a musician. I've been oh my God, I've been an evangelist. And technically every Christian is an evangelist. On top of that, I am a homeowner. On top of that, I am an entrepreneur. On top of that, I am a corporate type of person. And I remember I was talking with someone, and they were just like, well, you lead Hidden Treasures, which is all about entrepreneurial stuff. So why aren't you doing business full time? Why do you still have a corporate job? And so initially it was a matter of, well, it's that's what pays the bills. But the God's honest truth.
All right, praise God. We are back with more Thessalonia Talks. Can you introduce yourself? How would you introduce yourself to someone who came to Thessalonia for the first time?
Honestly, I would just say, hi, I'm Carissa.
Okay. And Carissa, where do you come from?
Where do I come from?
Yeah, where do you come from?
Well, there are many layers to that. I don't know. Can you be more specific?
Whichever layers you want to go.
All right. Well, we'll just take it pretty basic. I come from a family from North Carolina. So we were enslaved there. And with the Great Migration, my grandparents came to New York. And they ended up moving to the Bronx because that's where housing was available. And here I am.
Wow. So you seem to have a decent grasp of where your grandparents came from. How far back have you traced your ancestry?
To the Mayflower.
Oh, wow. That is really impressive.
I didn't do it. Fortunately, I have very strong family, persons. And my cousin Charles, unfortunately, who died, was obsessed with the family genealogy.
Oh, wow.
And so on the Winslow side, he was able to trace our lineage back to Cromwell Winslow, who was emancipated. And so what happened was that Cromwell was in the deed, not the deed, the will of his owner. And he was willed to the owner's daughter, presumably his half-sister.
Wow.
And fortunately, she did not want to own slaves, so she emancipated him. And so that's why we have records that go back before slavery ended. So I can go back about 15 generations to Cromwell.
Wow.
And then because it's the Winslows, Charles was able to find his Cromwell's owner's family and then trace that back. And it's actually documented in the Library of Congress. So my name is actually in there. It's spelled wrong, but my name is in there. Yeah.
How does having that information affect you, if at all? How when you first learned that your cousin did this work, and you saw it for yourself, how does that affect you?
Honestly, the effect was, I don't know if I can put it into words, but as a typical Black American, identity and lack thereof is a very huge deal. So, I know I'm an American, but in terms of, this rich, lineage or history or whatever, because anybody else that you talk to, they'll tell you about, the old world and where they came from and how they've got cousins here. I can go back to my country. And here it's like, you're just kind of in this vacuous space of, well, we exist here. And with the media, you're kind of, taught that your culture is nothing, or your culture, I've had other people from other Caribbean women told me that, well, Black Americans don't have any culture, and you kind of, take that in. But when you start doing your own work and your own research into, who you are or whatever, and for me, that was a matter of going to my cousin Cromwell. I mean, Charles. Cromwell was but going to my cousin Charles, because he had the information there.
Yeah.
It's just that what I found amazing was you have a room full of 50 people, and most of them aren't interested to hear it. Some were, but, so I bought the book. I, asked some questions even outside of that. What else did you find this year, and that kind of thing. But for me, it was just very, I would say it boosted my self-esteem. I think that would be the best way to put it, because I felt like, I can explain myself better about who I am if somebody asks me. And I'm not just, because I think the other thing with Black Americans is like, well, I was a slave, and then we were here, and so like your rich histories and things like that, which were all buried, or, those are, kind of, gone. And it's just like, no, my family, we did a lot. I've got family members who were Black Panthers, and, and all different kinds of things. And so like, that's why I love going to the family reunion, because I feel like at every reunion, I learn a little bit more about the family and therefore myself.
Wow. That is very interesting. So your family moved to New York and then landed in the Bronx. So you were born and raised in the Bronx?
Yes.
And where did you go to school?
Oh, goodness. Well, for elementary school, I went to CS 77, which the building is still there. They don't call it that anymore. Then I went to just a regular, junior high 127, and then Christopher Columbus High School, because I didn't have a choice. I did not want to go there. But my mother, at the time, that's when a lot of stuff was happening on the subways, and she refused to allow me to go into Manhattan, which is where I wanted to go and, just see different things and experience different things. So I went to the local zoned high school.
And as a child, what were you interested in?
Oh, my goodness. When I was a kid, I thought about being a vampire because I felt like, I don't know, I just did a lot of thinking about life and stuff. And I felt like I knew I wanted to be an artist. And then there were 3 things I wanted to do. I don't remember all 3 right now, because I haven't thought about it in so long. But there were 3 things I wanted to do. And I figured to do them well, I would need nearly a lifetime to spend. And I'm like, but I can't pick from the 3. So wouldn't it be great to be a vampire, and then I could live many lives, and then I can fulfill each one of the things that I want to do?
That sounds like 6-year-old logic. Yeah.
Well, by that point, I was 8.
Okay.
I was 8 when the whole like vampire and, I want to like live forever. But, because I was really into art when I was younger, and I just loved
What kind of art?
Just drawings. So my mother got very frustrated because she would buy me coloring books, which I didn't realize, and then I would draw pictures on top of the pictures that were there. So eventually she just bought me plain paper so that I could just, do what I wanted to do, and, just different, crayons and arts and things like that. And so what I discovered eventually was that as much as I enjoyed art, I wasn't a very good artist, and that really hit home for me when I went to high school. So what I would do is, if you put a picture in front of me, I could copy it, not trace it, but I could just look, and make like a really good recreation. But if you handed me a blank piece of paper and said, here, draw this bird, that type of creativity wasn't there. And so, as I mentioned, I knew I wanted to be, in art. And then when I got to high school, there was a guy there, and he would always doodle. And his doodles, I remember I asked him for one. He just looked at me, and he was like, here, you could have it. And I took his doodle home, and I was able to, recreate it. And then I tried to make my own version of it, like self-created, and it just was nowhere near as good as, the depth wasn't there. I just didn't have the eye for it to create it for myself. And that's when I said, okay, this is not it.
Wow.
So when I started college, I said, I'm going to go into computers. And at the time, computers were, big. They were emerging. Everybody was getting, desktops, and all that stuff was new. And it was just like being a computer programmer was where it's at. And I thought that's what I would do. But then when I got to college, you start taking your 101s. And when I got to marketing 101, it was like, because another interest I had was in business. I always thought it was a good idea to learn how to make money.
Yeah.
So between business and computers and art, marketing 101 was the perfect blend of business and art, because I didn't have to do the drawings, but I got to be a part of art in terms of the way it looked in the ads. And then on top of that, I got business, so I got that, sort of, corporate experience. Because another thing I will say is, for whatever reason, I always wanted to work in an office. Like, for me, that was a dream, like, to just be part of this big, like, conglomerate. Like, I never wanted to, wait tables or do, especially that kind of thing. Like, when you're coming up, I remember I was in a restaurant with my mom, and one of my classmates was there, and she was, getting the glasses and stuff. And my mother was like, "Oh, well, you want a job? Why don't you work here?" I was like, "I'm not doing this." Like, I knew I didn't have the temperament. Even though I was 16 years old, I knew I could not deal with the public in food service. I just knew that. And I'm like, no, I want to work in an office. I wanted a desk. I wanted, papers and, and I just wanted, work on important things. I don't know. I just always thought that was a good thing to do.
Wow. And just going back, it sounds like God was also a part of your worldview and your thinking as a kid. How did that happen?
Well, that really comes from my grandmother. And so, Sunday was always a different day. Sunday was a day where we slept in a little bit, and there was always the smell of, hot breakfast on that day. And so we knew that we were going to get a, nice hot, like, eggs and, cream of wheat or just whatever. And we were going to put on very nice clothes, and then we were going to go to church. And we couldn't go out to play until, later. Maybe. Sometimes, she wouldn't let us.
Yeah. And what church was that?
This church.
Oh. So you started coming to Thessalonia at what age, would you say?
In the womb.
Okay. So born and raised here.
Yes.
Born and raised
yes.
Here. Were there any stints where you stopped coming here?
Yeah, there was, which is interesting. So any weekend that I was with my grandmother, we had to come here. When I went with my mother, she didn't go. So those were the days where I got to, hang out with her and, play games and watch football and stuff like that. And what happened was around, I want to say about 11, my grandmother got sick, and she could no longer care for us. So I had to, and by us meaning me and my cousin. So I went to live with my mother. He went to live with his mother. And so it was a really good year that I look back on. I don't know if it was a year, but it seemed like it was a long time, where every Sunday was like we sleep in, we eat pancakes, we watch the Laurel and Hardy movies, we play backgammon, then we watch the football game, then we go to the park, we have dinner. Like, it was a nice, like, mother-daughter routine.
Yeah.
And then one day my mother gets this phone call from my grandmother, and she's like, she needs to be in church. And I'm just like, I don't want to go. I want to stay here with you and do whatever. And she's like, no, you have to go with your grandmother. I was so pissed. And so grandma came and got me, and I had to put on, nice clothes and go downstairs. And, and she brought me here the first week, and she was like, okay, go join. And I'm like, and I remember I talked her out of it because I said, well, I need to ask my mom. I knew she wasn't going to say no. I just didn't want to do it, and I was hoping that she would forget about it. And so that Sunday I didn't join. The following week, came back. It's like invitation. My grandmother was like, go join. I'm like, because mommy said yes, so what was I going to do? And, take the long walk up, and I just didn't want to do it. But I had to, but that was really just the hand of God in my life, only because my grandmother forced me to join the church.
Mm-hmm.
Then she forced me to join the choir
Mm-hmm.
because she said, you have to have something to do in the church.
Mm-hmm.
I joined the choir, and she would come bring me to choir rehearsal. And I made a friend, several friends actually, but one really good friend. And so what happened was that not long after that, my grandmother got so sick that she couldn't bring me, and then she eventually died.
Wow.
So now my connections are gone. So now I'm free to do what I would like to do.
Yeah.
And after a couple of weeks, I get, a phone call, and it's like from my good friend. And she was like, where are you? Choir isn't fun with you out, without you anymore. When are you coming back? And it was just like, all right, fine, I'm going to come back. But I came to the church to hang out with my friends,
Yeah.
not because of God, even though when I was younger, like, say your prayers and, all of that kind of stuff. But I didn't have that relationship. And, when you look back on it now, it's just like that was the hand of God, because it was me being steady here,
Mm-hmm.
not because of my desire for ministry or anything like that. I just wanted to be with my friends.
Yeah.
That's why I never, get after the kids for like socializing, because I feel like that's part of the thing. And that's what kept me in the church, to the point where eventually, someone, challenged me about why I was there, and I got saved,
Yeah.
but I wasn't here for the right reason, but I was here, and I was here just to, it was like a club. It was like something to do. I sing in the choir.
Yeah. Wow. When would you say it got real for you?
When I got, well, to put it in context, when Pastor Sampson came,
How old do you think you were?
I was 13 turning 14. And so I got saved when I was 14. And what happened was his son, Shelly, like in the room where they do the baptism stuff now, we were in there, and he was taking all of the youth back there, and he was like, yeah, I want to talk to you for a minute. And, he ran through all the youth, and he was like, we come here, and, wouldn't you want to know more about why you come here? And he invited me to a Bible study. And I thought, well, that sounds reasonable. If I'm here in church, I should know more about God and stuff. So it made sense to me. So I went to the Bible study because he invited me. He invited everybody, but very few people showed up. And by the second Bible study, I got saved.
Wow.
And it's not that I was opposed to salvation. It's just that no one had ever told me that I needed to do something more than come here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also I was, preteen, just whatever, and, but he was the first one. It's like, you need to be saved. And I couldn't have even, when I got saved, I couldn't have articulated it because I didn't have the words and the vocabulary. Because it's interesting. I did my own sinner's prayer without knowing it. But we had just had a Bible study, and we were in a little circle, and, we were each praying. And he's like, okay, Carissa, you pray. And I didn't know what to say. So I just said everything that was in my heart. And I just remember that by the end of that prayer, all I could say was that there's something here. It feels good here. Like that's all I could say, because that was all I knew to say.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later when I got, learned the lingo, and it's like, oh, because Shelly was like, yeah, you're saved. And I'm like, okay, whatever that means, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how that happened.
Do you remember how, if at all, your life changed during this time? I mean, it sounds like you were still a teenager. And I think, we have youth who grow up in the church, and sometimes it's challenging for them to pinpoint the moment or different things about their experience. It's hard for them to articulate it. But do you remember, after that prayer and after that experience, how, if at all, things changed?
Well, things changed for me dramatically, only because Shelley was there. And so I can say now looking back is that he discipled me. So it wasn't like, oh, you went to this Bible study, you said these words, you feel different, and then you're just kind of off on your own. There were more Bible studies after that every week, and it was just, just talks and challenges and things to do, and we spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a game changer because I had, someone to guide me, but then also it's also something you have to want for yourself, because again, the invitation was for everyone and anyone who wanted to come. A lot of people were just like, no, you guys are playing with God, you guys are this, you guys are that. But all I knew was that after that day, I wanted more of God. I didn't know what that meant. I wanted to, I wanted to learn more. I wanted, like, this is great. Like, it was like having candy for the first time. Like, give me more, right? And that's the only way I could define it. It was hard being a teenager who was saved, because there are things that you want to do and things, that you shouldn't do. So it was a hard line for me walking that.
Yeah.
So there were some things I just went for it. I really wanted to be part of the cheerleading team, so I still did it, even though there was nothing godly about it. But I just really wanted to do it, so I did it. So, but I would show up with my Jesus loves you buttons. Like, that was a big thing at the time. And so, so I'm in this group, but I'm like the pariah of the group. Because I'm like the weird one with the Bible and the Jesus loves you stickers, or pins on my shirt, and, talking about, we're doing something on Sunday. I can't go. I got to go to church. You have to go? Yes, I have to go.
Wow. That's interesting. So when we started with this, reference to knowing more about, your history and your family history. And you made a few comments there about identity. Who would you say Carissa is today?
Ooh. Let's see. So I have to give you some definitions, I guess. Okay. Because I feel like I'm a lot of things.
Okay.
And sometimes it's hard trying to put the package together. But first and foremost, I would call myself a Christian. Only because regardless of anything else that I do, that's the one unwavering piece. And I'm not trying to make it seem like, oh yeah, I'm super Christian, I'm all this, all that, but it all comes back to that, because that's the one piece that will override my direction in any of the other areas. So aside from, being a Christian, being, a member of the church, being, someone who, oh goodness. I mean, like, because within the church, then you have like, levels of administration. So I can say, yes, I'm a deacon. Oh my goodness. I'm a life group leader. I am, because and it's so hard because I've been so many things. I've been a ministry leader. I've been a musician. I've been, oh my God, I've been an evangelist. And technically every Christian is an evangelist. On top of that, I am a homeowner. On top of that, I am an entrepreneur. On top of that, I am a, corporate type of person. And it's interesting because I still struggle right now, because it's like there's the entrepreneurial piece, and then you have the, corporate, business piece. And I remember I was talking with someone, and they were just like, well, you lead Hidden Treasures, which is all about entrepreneurial stuff. So why aren't you doing business full time? Why do you still have a corporate job? And so initially it was a matter of, well, it's that's what pays the bills. But the God's honest truth, I like it. I like it. I like corporate America. I always have. There are parts of it I don't like. There are things that frustrate me. But by and large, as long as you have a good situation, which is what I've got right now, I am loving life at my corporate job. But at the same time, I know that that could change in an instant. One reorg, and suddenly, like, it's a horrible place again because maybe I don't like my new manager, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. And so for me, the entrepreneurial piece is a matter of that you have to have something else to hang on to. I was laid off, about 10 years ago. And at the time, I did have a small business that I, was kind of fledgling doing, and I threw myself into it. And I said I was never going to go back to corporate America. Obviously, that didn't work out because I wasn't able to make the money that I needed. But, so I went back to corporate America for the money, but I stayed because I do genuinely enjoy it, especially after I got promoted. And it's like the things that I get to do now, I really like those tasks, but with entrepreneurship, I do definitely enjoy that. That's why sometimes I feel like it's kind of hard to be me sometimes, because I feel like sometimes I'm like all over the place because there are so many things that I love and enjoy, and I just wish that there were more hours in the day so that I could fully throw myself into everything that I wanted to do. That's why, like, when I find people who talk about like how much time they have on their hands or how bored they are, and it just baffles me. Because I'm like, there are not enough hours in the day. Like, I am never bored. Because there's always something to do, something to learn, something to explore. And it's like, and sometimes it just really burns me that I don't have more time to pursue everything that I would like to pursue.
I guess from that 6-year-old and 8-year-old self, you sound like you've always been ambitious. like you have all of these things you want to do. And where do you think that comes from?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. And it's so funny. I never defined that as ambition. I just thought of it as interests. There have always been things that have, interested me. I now remember. I also wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to be a pilot.
Okay.
I actually tried to be a pilot.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't try very hard, but I tried.
How far did you get?
Inquiries.
Okay.
And I got to fly a Cessna once for about 2 minutes.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the sacrifices that it was going to take because I just didn't. So there was a program that would teach Black youth to fly, and I was a year too old for the program, so they wouldn't take me. So then my secondary option was to try and do it on my own, but then I would have to pay for it, which I didn't have that kind of money, and I would have to get myself to and from the airport, which I wasn't able to do because I didn't have a car. So then my third option was to join the military. And I, had started looking into it, and what I discovered was, even though in recruitment they'll say, "Oh, you want to fly? Yeah, you could fly." And what I discovered is that they'll tell you anything to get you in, but once you get there, they give you a test, and if you don't pass the test, then you can't pursue that. And I wasn't willing to take that risk, so I just said no. I will, and by this point, I was already like, I think. I already had like my marketing major. I was already, working, and going to school at the same time and, doing all of that. So I was like, you know what? I said, forget it. I said, I'm not going to make any life decisions until I get my degree. Because I said, I'm not cutting off the military. I said, but if I go into the military, the one thing I don't want to do is be a junior. I want to be an officer.
Yeah.
I've always had this thing where I just didn't want to be like the person where people like, telling you like what to do and yell. I'd rather be in charge.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna treat people badly, but I'm gonna be the one in charge. That's always the goal.
Wow. And then writing, what kinds of things did you want to write?
Well, I started writing my first novel when I was 12. And I had this storyline. I never got more than, I think, 5 or 6 pages,
Okay.
because I was writing it out by hand and I got writer's cramp. But the idea was, it was about twins, and one of them committed a murder, but like no one knew which one it was, and the whole thing was about trying to figure out like which twin was it. And
Oh, that's fascinating.
yeah, yeah. So, but now it's like my writing. I personally write short stories.
Okay.
They're not for public, whatever. It's just for my own.
Creative.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's part of my job. Writing is part of it. But what I've learned is that business writing is just not as much fun, So, but in terms of like creative writing, sometimes I'll just sit down and I'll just, write a little story, and, and then I'm happy. The issue there though is, I don't know. I mean, I guess I never thought about being a novelist as I got older, because because the issue is that as much as I love to write, it's time, and I just don't have that kind of time.
Yeah. Why not share some of the things you've written with the public?
Well, I mean, I think, back in the day, a couple of things were posted online, and like, just like in like little areas, but those sites are probably gone by now. But no, I just, I don't know, too private, too personal, I think I have like one piece I would share.
Okay. So writing really became more of a personal outlet.
Yes.
Were you writing about your own lives, even though you were maybe writing characters? Was it really your own experiences and different things you were feeling, and you just put it into these stories?
Well, it's just whatever hit me at the moment. So I've written poetry. I can't say it's good. I've written psalms.
Oh.
I was looking for those the other day. I couldn't. I don't know where they are, but I wrote a couple of psalms. I wrote a couple of short stories. Like I think the one that I let people read was this story called "I Am Grotesquely Beautiful," and it was about a homeless woman on the subway that I had seen.
Oh wow.
And it still bothers me to this day, only because when I looked at her, she didn't belong there, because she was an older black woman, heavy. She looked like somebody's grandmama, and she looked like she should be somewhere, asleep on a chair in front of the TV with cookies in the oven. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But instead, she was in the subway with like her bag, and, she was there asleep. And so the grotesque piece was, the fact that, of walking past her and not, speaking with her, because it was just like, what am I going to do to help her?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like I can say, oh, come home with me. It's like, I don't have that space or that capacity to, to help. So it's like, I didn't have like resources to say, oh, I'm going to, bring you here or whatever, because at the time I was maybe 23, and so it's, here, come stay with my mom. Like, you can't do that. So you have to just, walk by.
Yeah, it is a tough thing to witness in the city, especially being a commuter every day, the different things you see. Part of what I'm wondering though is what if one of these stories are like really good and and really impactful, and you're just keeping it to yourself. It's like, what's up?
Okay. Yeah.
If we had like a storytelling event, would you share like 4 minutes? Everybody could come up and share a piece of their stories, their writings?
Yeah, I guess I could. I guess I could. I think I could find one piece that I would feel like I would feel comfortable with sharing.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, very interesting. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, no one really knows that.
Wow.
But now the whole world's gonna know. Hey, Carissa, right? Well, and that's the other thing about writing is that writing is only fun if you do it when the moment hits you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say, "Oh, okay, this is the time allotted for writing," you put it like that, it's it's just not there. It's just something has to hit me and inspire me, and I can look at it and I could just write pages on it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Do you, is there anything about you that you would like people in the church to know?
That I'm a nice person.
Do you feel like people perceive you as being not nice?
I don't know if people perceive me as being not nice, but I think sometimes I'm not sure how people perceive me.
Mm-hmm.
So only because I've been told from time to time that I'm intimidating, and I don't mind that at work, but I don't like that here.
Yeah.
So I have tried very hard to not be intimidating. I mean, because me, I'm like, I'm intimidating, but but how am I to say like, how you should feel about me?
Yeah.
And it's like, and unfortunately, because the way the person mentioned that well, I mean, it's not very nice, but they felt like that they didn't have, I guess, enough intelligence to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess because they felt like, well, you know a lot of things, and and it's just like, no, I know about lots of stuff. It's just if you want to talk to me about like the latest TV show or the whatever, it's just I just don't have anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I think I'm better than. That's just not my interest.
Yeah.
But but if you want to talk to me, we can find a common ground of something that we could talk about.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that there's something that you like that I do like.
What are 5 of your favorite things?
That's so random. 5 of my favorite things. All right. Well, I will say, because it changes.
Yeah.
Well, 5 of my favorite things about Thessalonia, or just in general.
In general.
In general, 5 of my favorite things. I love cats.
Okay.
I think cats are the most beautiful, elegant creatures God has ever made. They are just the cutest things. And when they talk about how people sit online and watch cat videos, that will be like, oh, I'm having dinner. Oh, look at the kitty. It's just so cute. So one of my favorite things is cats. Another one, oh, goodness. Favorite things. The color green. A good rainstorm. Especially when there's good thunder. It's good sleeping. Driving to work. When it's good, like there's this part on the West Side Highway where when the sun is coming up, and I'll drive in the far lane so that I'm looking at the water while the sun is coming up for the drive. And that moment, I love that moment.
Wow.
And the last thing, favorite things. I love it when everything is in order in my life, which never seems to happen. I love that. I love that. But I feel like I'm constantly trying to catch up.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like I should have had like more religious answers, but I'm
no,
trying to.
No, this is not about that. This is not about that. Very good, very good. Well, the idea is that it'll just be a sample. This is part 1 of hopefully many other parts, and just conversations about who you are, what's on your mind, what's on your heart. But yeah, this is just a little hors d'oeuvre, and we'll see if there are more things you want to talk about next time.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Thessalonia Talks. If this blessed you today, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe, for we have much more to share with you. And send the link to this talk to someone you think may be blessed by it. God bless you, and see you next time.